This presentation anyways is going to be recorded, so we'll be sharing it with everybody that registered.
Perfect. So we can go ahead and kick it off. Like I said, just a few housekeeping items before we get started, everybody. If you have any questions, we're going to do our best to stop during the presentation and take them. If not, we'll answer them at the end. So just pop them into the chat or the Q&A, whichever is your preference. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. We're talking today about the first 24 hours after a cyber attack or disaster, what to do. It's a 24-hour response plan for organizations. And I want to introduce you to our host and speaker, Ikram Masabini. So, Ikram, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Thank you, Christy. And thanks everybody for joining. And as people start to join, just to let you know that we'll be recording this and sending it to everybody. But let's get started. So I want you to imagine this. It's 2 a.m., your phone rings, and your company's network is down. Ransomware has locked every file. Nobody can work at all. What do you do in the next 24 hours will really decide if your business survives or become another statistic. So it's important to know that this stuff happened. Instant response to something like that is critical to make sure that you survive an attack. So every 11 seconds, a business is hit by a ransomware attack. 60% of small businesses closes within the first 6 months of a major cyber attack. These are the ones that did not plan for a cyber attack. So the average breach goes undetected for 204 days. But your response in the first day is what matters the most. So what I'm trying to say here is when you get a breach and you actually get hacked, the hacker has actually been on your network on average for 204 days, looking at what you're doing, monitoring everything that you're doing, who you're sending emails to, where's your data, where's your servers, where's your backup, can they get to it, can they delete your backup, how devastating of an attack is it going to be? And they take their time to make sure that the attack is really foolproof, because at the end of the day, they want to get paid. They want your data to sell it. They want you to pay the ransom if possible. So like Christy said, I'm Ikram Masabini. I'm the CEO of MVP Network Consulting. I've been in IT for 25 plus years. I'm an expert in cybersecurity, and I have a couple of books, but most importantly, I've been doing some incident response, especially on things like this for the last few years. And I just wanted to share my knowledge and what I've experienced in when it comes to a cyber attack. So now what? You got hacked. You go show up to the office, your phone rang, you're like, all right, well, I'll deal with it when I get there. You get there, you try to open up and log in, nothing works. No, QuickBooks doesn't work, Outlook doesn't work, all your Word, Excel, PowerPoints, everything is locked up. You have no access to any data. You don't know who owes you money. You don't know who you owe money to. You don't know what projects you're working on. You don't know anything at all. And all you know is every time you double click on a file, it tells you that you've been ransomed. And what you're going to do in the first 24 hours is key to really save you. So recovery starts or fails, if you will, within the first 24 hours. So the clock starts the moment chaos hits, and I do mean chaos. Because as soon as you come in and you have all your employees coming in, well, you actually, nobody can work. So what are they going to come in and do? What are you going to do about that? Most regulators give you 72 hours to report, starting with hour one. So you really have 72 hours to decide, are you going to report this? Do you have to let everybody know, including your clients and the media, that you got hacked? What can you do? What have you done? And what are your options? And the first 24 hours of those 72 hours are the most important ones. So let's dive deeper. The first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you have cyber insurance with a ransomware rider? Because a lot of time people think they have the ransomware rider, but they don't. They only have cyber insurance that covers certain things, not everything. So just make sure that your insurance does cover ransomware and does have additional riders that are important to have to be able to protect yourself, because somebody's going to have to pay for something. and it's going to take some time to restore your network back to where it was. So you want insurance to be able to do that. So then the next thing is, do you have an existing incident response plan? Have you pre-planned for an attack? Did you sit back and think, okay, you know what? I already know what I'm going to do because I planned this. If this something like that happened, these are the people I'm going to call first. This is what I'm going to do next. This is how I'm going to be able to restore. This is what I'm going to this is how I'm going to let everybody know. So do you have an existing incident response plan? If the answer is no, it's something that work on it now so that you're prepared for it in the future. So I put together some key questions that you're going to have to ask yourself if you do get a ransomware attack. So first, I'm going to start with immediate technical questions. First one, is the attacker still active on the network? Did they leave? Did they do the attack, steal your data, or are they still there waiting to see what you're going to do? Have they been removed properly? And then which systems, servers, endpoints are compromised or encrypted? Are they all encrypted? Are some encrypted but others aren't? Why? And did the attacker not only encrypt your data, but did they steal your data? So sometimes attackers will just encrypt your data and ask for your money back, for some money, for them to send you a decryption key. And sometimes they do that, and they also steal the data out of your network so that if you do not pay them, they can then sell that data or share that data and cause you more harm. Then, is any personally identified information, PII, or regulated data affected? So did they just take your Outlook and your QuickBooks and you don't have any data in there that really matters? It matters to you, but it doesn't matter to all your clients or what have you, or your employees? Or did they take some of the PII information that you have? In other words, did they take social security numbers, people credit card numbers, some health records? What is hacked? And then, are your backups still available? Were they isolated, uninfected, or were they able to get to the backup as well and delete that backup? And that's a very important point, right? Because that's how you're going to be able to restore without paying a ransom, if that your backup is solid. But a lot of people have backups right in their environment with the same username and password that they use for everything else. Well, then if they were able to hack that username and password, one of the things that the hacker always do is try to delete your backups. And then, has malware spread to cloud services? So yes, you got it on your network and you're using, let's say, Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, Workplace. Were they able to get there, log into it, and delete the stuff from there as well? Or any remote offices, or just one office if you have any remote offices. And what I mean by remote offices, I'm also talking about your home. Were they able, if your machine was at home, was it turned on? Were they able to get to it? And is there evidence of a lateral movement? And that's why I mean they were able to get to it. Lateral movement or persistent mechanism between the area where it got hacked into different servers, different locations, and different cloud providers. Like, let's say you use HubSpot or what have you. Were they able to get there? Were they able to delete that data from there? And what vulnerabilities were exploited? Unpatched software, weak credentials. How did they able to get that? How did you get hacked? You have to be able to find that out, because that's the hole you need to patch. You know, you need to make sure that you understand what happened and how they got there. So the one thing we have to look at is logs to be able to find out how they got in. We have to hire a forensic company that will look at forensic evidence and analyze that attack. Now, if you had a SIM, that data makes it a lot easier. If you don't have a SIM, we actually have to then log in to every single machine and retrieve the logs. And what kind of logs are you capturing on those machines? Some are very minimal Windows logs, some are a lot more detailed, but if you have a SIM, obviously it captures everything. And then, who was patient zero? The first compromised device or user? How were they able to get in? And who's that person that clicked on something they're not supposed to click, or maybe their password was on the dark web and they never changed it, or they changed it with an exclamation point at the end, and now that their user account have been hacked, and maybe they had administrative administrative rights. So not only is their user account hacked, but they have admin rights. Now the hacker have that username and password and are able to go across the network that way. And is endpoint protection or threat hunting active and effective? So if you have a regular antivirus, that no longer works. You need an MDR solution, a managed detection and response. The difference is an antivirus works on definitions. So basically you get a virus, you're on the list of those definitions, and if you're on the list, the software knows what to do to protect you. But let's say you don't have your antivirus, the virus that you got hacked with was not on that list. Because what's happening now with viruses is that you click on something or something happens and it gets downloaded to your machine, but it's not a full virus. It's just one file. And that file calls out to different servers and downloads other pieces of the virus and builds itself on your machine and makes and gives the virus your machine's name. So it's never on that list. An MDR, which is a next generation antivirus, works on attributes, on how things are happening in real time and can take action. So, and does hunting as well. It looks in to see if there is any scripts that are running, anything that's running that's not supposed to be running, and stops it. So do you have a good MDR solution in place? And are your backup systems themselves targeted or compromised? I said that before and I say it again. It's important to have your backup isolated from your network. That the same username and password, it shouldn't even be on your network. It shouldn't be, it should be in its own VLAN. It should be completely separated from your actual domain. And can we restore critical system from clean backups, and how quickly can we do that? Now, these are all the technical questions we have to ask. But what about operational questions? What is the scope of the business impacts? System down, data loss, operational disruption. Do you have to tell your clients things are not going to ship when they're supposed to ship, or you're not able to do what you're supposed to do, or your patients are coming in and you can't see them because you don't know and you can't reach their chart? Which business process are halted, and what is the financial cost per hour of that downtime? And who needs to be notified internally? Executives, IT, legal, PR, compliance. Who needs to be notified? Because if you have that incident response plan, all that information will be written in it. So you'll know exactly what to do next. And what external notifications are required? So do you have to let customers, partners, regulators, law enforcement know what's happening? Do you have cyber insurance? I said that before, but does it cover ransomware? What are the reporting requirements? Are you under HIPAA, GDPR, SEC? What requirements are you under? Because there is different requirements and different regulations on what you have to report depending on what you're under. And is there a tested incident response plan? And is everyone clear on their roles? And if there isn't, well, that's an issue. And that's something I'm going to recommend. Have a solid incident response plan in place. You basically sit down and pretend you got hacked, and what will you do? Who will you call? What's the next steps? How is your backup set up? Have that all that pre-planned so when it happens, you're able to restore quickly. And what is your communication plan for the stakeholders and the media if you need to go that deep? And then do you need to engage external experts like forensics? And you definitely will need to engage forensics, but do you need negotiators or legal counsel? And if you have insurance, they're going to hire all these people for you. Now you want IT to manage it, but you also want your legal counsel in, a negotiator if you don't have a backup and your backup has been hacked, and now you have to pay a ransom, so they got to negotiate with the hacker. And forensics will tell you if the hacker is still on your network or not and how they got in. So you need all that. That's why insurance is key. Has a ransomware demand been made yet? And what are the risks for paying? Now, 90% of the time when you pay, you will get a decryption key, but there is 10% where you don't. And the reason why they give you the decryption key, because this is their business model. It's a business for these hackers. It's terrible, but that's what's happening. And what are the legal and regulatory implications of that breach? And how do you document every action for accountability and for future analysis so it doesn't happen again? Now, from a strategic perspective and recovery questions, how did the attack happen and how long were the attackers undetected? What steps have been taken to eliminate the threat and prevent reoccurrence? What lessons can be learned to strengthen future defenses? even if you had an incident response plan, but they were able to get in. Well, where was that hole, and how can we patch that hole so they can't get in again? And how do we rebuild trust with our customers, partners, and regulators? Because now you got hacked. You have to let somebody know. You can't see them. Patients are coming in. You can't see the patients. You can't ship anything out if you're in manufacturing, for instance. Well, you have to let your customers know things will be delayed. And that's a reputation hit. And what improvements are needed in backup security and staff training so that they know what to do? And how do we ensure resilience and continuous improvement post the incident? A lot of questions. And I wanted to put these questions in because these questions we had to answer for a lot of different clients that came to us after an attack. So let's talk about this. Hour 0 to 1, you got hacked. What do you do? Immediate containment is what you should do. System isolation, disconnect the compromised servers and network to stop malware from spreading if it's not everywhere yet. And then you need evidence. So capture volatile data like memory dumps, and you need all the logs, basically. Active connections, essential for forensic analysis. Now, if you have a SIM, all that happens really quickly. You export everything and you send it to the forensics team. But if you have an incident response plan, it's the time from hour 0 to get the incident response plan activated. Trigger the IR plan and assemble the response team. Call everybody and let's jump on the phone and let's get all the stakeholders on the same phone call and deciding what the next steps needs to be and deciding exactly where we are by answering the questions that I just shared with you guys. Communication, who to notify and when. Internally, you got to notify all executive, IT, legal, PR teams immediately. They have to know. Externally, prepare a template for customers. Be prepared to what you're going to tell them if something like that happens. Have that in your incident response plan. Your customers, partners, and regulatory notifications if you need to be under that, if you're under regulations. And then the media. You may have to go that deep depending on where you are, but have a crisis communication plan ready so that it sounds better and it puts you in a better light. And then use secure channels for communication. You can't no longer use your internal communication. They're hacked. You may have to set up Gmail accounts, or you may have to set up Outlook accounts, and you have to set up different accounts that are outside your environment that are working so that you can communicate and to be able to fight the fight that you have to fight now. So I understand what I'm saying is a lot, but it's chaos when it happens. After that, hour 1 to 4 is assemble and mobilize. So assembling the IR team, gather all the disciplinary team, including IT, which is the network and the forensics, legal, PR, leadership, and external experts for effective incident response. Then you got to have a secure communication channel. So you have to go set up secure emails, maybe have a burner phone to establish protected communication, because your phone may be hacked as well. Your phone is just another device on your network. And then have forensic triage process. Identify patient 0, the attack vector, how they got in, and the incident scope to guide the investigation and response effort accurately. So that information has to be gathered, and it takes time to gather. So now if you have a SIM, it's a lot faster to get all the logs. If you don't have a SIM, now we have to log into every single machine and pull whatever logs we have, and that takes time. And then you have to take all those logs and then send it to forensics. That's before you could do anything, because we need to know if the hacker is still there. You can't start restoring yet. Even if your backup is good and you've done that work ahead of time, you can't do anything about it, because if you restore and the hacker is still there, they're going to reinfect you, and now your ransom will triple. Now, from hour 4 to 12 is investigation and decision making. Now, we got the log collection and analysis. We collected and analyzed the log from endpoints, firewall, SIM, DNS, to trace attacker activity and identify where the compromised systems are. We may have to get law enforcement engaged at this point, maybe call the FBI or CISA for support in ransomware or nation-state incidents to gain additional resources. And the FBI will help you, especially in Buffalo. Just to let you know, there's an FBI agent that just focuses on ransomware. Now, Data encryption assessment. If you got encrypted, you got to manage that communication with customers, partners, regulators, and maintain trust and comply with legal obligations like GDPR and HIPAA. So you got to be prepared for all that. So once it's all collected, from hour 4 to 12 is investigation. And after we know what happened and if the hacker is there or not, then it's decision making. Okay, we can start restoring now. We can't restore because we did find the hacker still there. We can't restore because the attack vector has not been patched yet, and they'll be able to come back in even if they weren't there. So these are decisions will have to be made after the log has been looked at. And from hour 12 to 24 is now stabilization. We decided what we're going to do, and we had a strong incident response plan in place, and we've activated, and it worked. So now it's recovery planning. Critical system restoration. Now it's about restoring from your backup. You first do a priority rebuilding essential system like email servers first, ERP and CRM, to use clean images of the backup. But those backup has to be scanned as well, because what if the backup is still there and accessible, but they injected malicious code in it? So that's something that has to be done as well. Data recovery efforts, so use forensics and decryptors tools to recover data safely. And if we didn't have a backup, then negotiation have to happen at that time. Then that's when you start talking to the hacker and say, okay, what can we do and how can we pay you? Is it going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be something else? And once you get a decryption key, just to let you know, it's not as simple as just plug in the decryption key and everything comes back to life. It's a job to get. It's a long, tedious job, even if you have a decryption key for it to work, because you have to decrypt every folder at a time, sometimes every file at a time. So it takes a long time to decrypt you, even though you paid the ransom and you finally got the decryption key. Hopefully your backup was solid. Hopefully you didn't have to go that deep. Hopefully you pre-planned for the issues. So documentation and accountability, obviously maintain detailed timelines and records to support accountability for future incidents analysis. You got to be prepared that it could happen again. You got to be prepared that before it happens, what you have in place and what kind of systems and tools you have in place to stop that from ever happening again. So recovery and restoring operations, then you're going to have to do priority, which systems you're going to recover first. You got to validate the backup, monitor for reinfection and persistent threats, and then engage expert negotiators if you have to pay for it, and document all actions and accountability. So it's about building resilience before an attack. It's about develop and regularly update your incident response plan. It's about conducting a tabletop exercise and simulation. And I guess the whole idea of this webinar is to tell you that there's something you could do about it so that if it happens to you, it's not detrimental. You know exactly what to do. You got to protect yourself and be prepared. So maintain an up-to-date asset inventory. Obviously, if you're working with us, we do that for you automatically. You got to ensure backups and are isolated, encrypted, and tested. And we do that for you if you have a solid BCDR, backup and disaster recovery solution. And then train your staff on security awareness and phishing. If you don't do that, shame on you. If you work with us, we provide free training to all your staff. And if you're not aware of this and you work with us, let us know and I'll give you access to those systems. But what is a good email versus a bad one? Was it a good website versus a bad one? Train your staff about this so they're more aware of what's happening, so they don't click on something they're not supposed to click. So the idea is you got to learn from it, rebuild stronger, and be proactive. And without an incident response plan, you're really flying blind. So I wanted to talk about how to rebuild stronger, if you will. Let me move that out of the way. So if you look at this infographic that we created, and we call it Total Secure. And if you have a vCISO or a Chief Information Officer or Chief Security Officer that are responsible for your compliance, like HIPAA and CMMC or GDPR or others, these people have to worry about 6 layers to defend. Really, they have to worry about protecting your data. That's the first layer. Your data is the most important thing. So we recommend either a data loss prevention system and encryption on every drive so that you're the one encrypting your data, not somebody else. But every piece of data that you have get produced by an application, right? If you want to type the word hello, you got to open up Word or Notepad or something to type hello. Well, every application, we recommend an application allow listing solution on every machine. That will not allow any application to run that you're not aware of, because a virus is just an application, a ransomware is just an application. So if you have a solution like this, nothing can run on your network. It's the ultimate defense. And every application you have is actually installed on a computer, an endpoint. So don't have just antivirus, has an MDR, managed detection and response. And everyone that works with us has that. And comes with a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week SOC to take first line of defense action at 2 a.m. So if only one computer got hacked, they can isolate that computer so they don't have the time to jump all the way across your network. And if you have mobile devices, I recommend the mobile device management. Every endpoint, every computer that you have is connected to a network. So have multi-factor authentication on the network. You know, the additional code you have to enter when you log in somewhere. And make sure you do domain hardening, whether on M365 or Google or in your internal domain. But this is not a tool, but it's actually just setting changes to harden that environment, because it's important that they can't have free reign across the entire network. But that network has a perimeter where you have a firewall before you go out to the internet. So we recommend the firewall, obviously, DNS sanitization system, an email security system, because your email should be outside your network in the cloud, but you should have your own security around that. Microsoft security or Google security is just not enough. And there's tools out there that provide additional security in line with those systems. And then humans use the entire environment, right? And having said that, make sure they have a strong password management vault so their password can't be hacked, and train them. And at the end here, I put cybersecurity insurance. That's very important. But if you see all those arrows, they're going into a SIM, a log aggregator that captures everything, and a SOC is looking at them. MVP here is sitting as a SOC, looking at them 24 hours a day. So that's how you build stronger. That's how you build a strong security play. But we talked about incident response plan. So definitely have a virtual chief security officer service set up, because what they're going to do is they're really going to create that incident response plan for you. They're going to look at threat intelligence, provide context for decision being made within the cybersecurity program. It's going to look at risk analysis, doing vulnerability scanning, penetration testing. It's going to look at every hole and patch it. It's going to look at security accountability, so it creates oversights for the organization security. The executive team knows that is being proactively managed. And then board level discussions to know what we're going to do and what tools we should have and what we could live without. It's where IT meets IS. Information technology meets information security, and bring them together. So having a chief security officer, that's their job, is to look at every hole and patch those holes. But they cost a lot of money to be able to hire somebody, especially in smaller environments. So you could outsource that and have it done, have the services done for you. And you don't have to do it. Once it's created, now you know what to do. And if your environment doesn't change, you don't have to do much more after that, just the regular scans, because it's important to know if there is something else on your network that needs to be taken care of. So this is how we would do it. This is kind of like this is exactly our schedule. On a weekly basis, we'll have an IT status meeting where we meet weekly and we find out, because we have to look at every account and see every user and what rights they have, and make sure they don't have elevated rights. We have to do penetration testing. We have to do vulnerability assessment, patch those vulnerabilities as we find them, and have that done regularly. And then monthly we would meet to do an IT performance analysis, IT security meeting. We do simulation phishing exercises where we send fake emails to your employees to see if they're going to click on it or not. And we do a backup review to make sure your backup is not also isolated and it's in own environment, but it's actually being backed up and we can restore from it. And then quarterly user reviews, because some people leave, some people come, you hire new people, you get rid of people, all that has to be maintained and cleaned up on a regular basis. We meet with the executives, we do IT security training, vulnerability scanning. And then we'll meet, if you have a board, we would meet with the board and review everything with them. And then annually, most importantly, besides a physical inventory review, third-party penetration testing done, policy review, procedure review, vendors review, if they have access to your network especially. We do a risk assessment. And if you accept credit card, a PCI self-assessment is done. And most importantly, a tabletop exercise where we sit together and say, all right, your EHR system is down. What are we going to do now? Are you able to work on paper? Do you print the stuff the day before for the week, or for at least for the next day, so that if something did happen in the middle of the night, at least the patient can still be seen and you can activate the 24-hour instant response plan you've been working on. So having said all that, it's important to think about having a chief security officer, virtual chief security officer solution in place. So the first 24 hours starts today. It doesn't start when you get hacked. It starts today. Now you know all this information. It's important to understand what you're going to need to do about it. So we're going to provide you with a free cyber security assessment and evaluation. And if you'd like to spend some time with me talking about what is important, talking about what you have and what you don't have and what you should focus on, I will give you a couple hours of my time to do that with you. But get a free cybersecurity assessment done on your environment. We will do it for you at no charge for everybody on this webinar today. We won't need administrative credentials. You can just scan this and just fill out the form. We won't come to your office. We're going to pretend to be a hacker. What we're going to do is just basically, we won't install anything on your network. What we'll do is send you a link. You're going to click on it and click run. And it's going to pretend, it's going to do the same thing a hacker would do. It's going to look at everything a hacker would usually look at. And that's what our system does. We'll send you the link. You send it to 5 key users. They click on the link and click run to start the scan. And then we'll run through the report with you, a confidential report, tell you where these are where your holes are. This is what we should do to patch them. This is where your backup stands. This is what we need to do about it. And just be prepared for it. At the end of the day, preparation is key. So I hope you guys found this interesting and it's real. This is what we've experienced with a lot of different clients that came to us after ransomware and weren't prepared. So I just wanted all our clients to be prepared, to understand that there's work to be done, to be prepared, to have an incident response plan that's tested and regularly looked at. So sign up for the scan and consider a virtual chief security officer solution that we do offer, and we'll be more than happy to go through that with you and see what that would look like for your environment. Is different for everybody, obviously, depending on the size of the environment, how many locations you have, how many employees you have, and all that. Now, if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Here's our direct number. Here's our address at our building, and this is my email address. You could reach out to me at any time. So please let me know if you have any questions. I hope you guys found this beneficial. It's a short webinar, but because it's really very impactful. I like the content that we put together here just because it's real. It's something that we've experienced, went through, and go through on a regular basis. And at the end of the day, we want to protect our partners, and we want to make sure you're prepared. All right, Christy, any questions?
Yes, we had some come in. What kind of evidence do we need to collect during an incident?
Okay, that's a good question. Now, every log file you have is what you need to collect. So every computer will have, Windows have its own logs, but it's usually it's not as deep as you want it. If you have a SIM, it gets a lot deeper. But every single machine, every single firewall, every single switch, every single server will have to get all the logs from it, and we'll have to take that out and send it to forensics to find out how they gained access and what user got compromised and what happened.
Okay, and then how do I know if data was actually stolen or just access? Does it matter?
It does matter, because it matters a lot, actually, because if your data is also stolen, and by the way, I'll tell you how you find out. You find out through, if you have a SIM, it's easy to find out. It tells you that. But if you don't have a SIM, you have to look at your firewall to see if there is any data and how much of data got uploaded from your firewall. The firewall keeps track of how much it downloads and how much you upload. Well, if there's a lot of large upload, well, then most likely they stole your data as well. And the hacker, if you don't have a solid backup, will tell you, I have your data as well. But it's important because if they have your data, and let's say you have you're manufacturing and you have all your designs and drawings, and maybe some technical information that's very specific for you, and they want to share it with everybody. They'll share it on the dark web. They'll send it to your competition. They'll send it to your partners. They'll do whatever they can to make sure that you pay that ransom. So, and if you don't pay it, and you're not prepared, and they were able to steal your stuff, it's a different way for them to get money from you. They say, all right, well, maybe you're able to restore from backup, but I have your data. You better pay me, or I'm going to share it with everybody else. So it's important to know if they have it or not. Any other questions?
Just a few comments. Pam said super helpful. Thank you. Dennis said awesome information. Thanks. And Andrea said thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. I truly appreciate your time. I am traveling. I'm actually in a hotel room getting ready to go to the airport. And from what I understand, I come back to Buffalo to a snowstorm, but I'm in LA and it's 85 degrees. But having said that, I'm glad you found it beneficial. Consider a chief security officer to come in and really analyze and create that incident response plan. Thank you, everybody. Anything else, Christy?
That's all.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.